Hi everyone, my name's Tara. I'm 23 years old and I live in the UK, and I suffer from a condition called Postural Orthostatic Tachycardia syndrome, as well as a few other things. It's called POTS for short, and what I'm going to be doing is a series of home videos, like video diaries, to highlight some of the issues with POTS as a condition. I know there's a lot of American video diaries being done now, and I have a few really good friends with POTS here in the UK who are doing lots of hard work and making their own, and I thought it was about time that I got on and did one myself, because I've had POTS for 4 years and I haven't really done anything. Um, so I guess what the first video should be about is how I got POTS and how I got diagnosed. So that's where I'll start. Uh, 4 years ago, in 2006, when I was 19 years old, I started to get spells of feeling really unwell. I would get very flushed in my face and feel really heat intolerant. Um, I would feel nauseous and sick, dizzy spells, and I thought it was just a virus at first and didn't really think much of it. Didn't bother to go to the doctors about it, thought it was something that would just pass with time. Um, but then I started to notice patterns to it, that it would start during shopping trips or when I was at work or when I was out with friends. And I began to think that maybe there was something a bit more to it. I started to have breathing problems, feeling very short of breath, and at that point I began to think that I was having panic attacks. And so I booked an appointment with my GP to discuss it. But before I got a chance to go to that appointment, one evening my skin began to feel like it was on fire, and my heat intolerance became really severe. Uh, I decided to go to bed and sleep it off, but when I woke up, my heart was pounding in my chest and I was really struggling to breathe. And I knew that something was very wrong. I thought I was having a heart attack at the time. Um, Luckily, my family were around, and we rushed to the hospital, where they didn't really have a clue what was going on. They kept trying to insist that I must have taken some drugs or at least been drinking heavily, to cause my heart to be beating so fast, because when I was laying down on the hospital bed, my heart rate was 230, which is ridiculously high. Normal healthy heart rate should be between 60 to 80 beats per minute. Um, and once they tested my blood and realised that I hadn't taken anything and I hadn't been drinking, um, they they became quite worried. And I think the scariest thing throughout this whole process has been when I look at a doctor's face and he looks scared and he doesn't know what's happening to me, because you think a medical expert would be able to put a name to something and be able to help you. And in fact, all they did was try to um, treat me with conditions they thought I could have. So initially they said, well, you're a young woman, you've probably got something called SVT, which is supraventricular tachycardia, where your heart just switches out of rhythm temporarily. And so they tried to give me a medication for that, which sent me into a sort of seizure, because it obviously wasn't what the problem was. Um, my blood pressure dropped very, very low, and I kept passing out. I spent weeks and months in a local coronary care unit, because no matter how many tests and scans the doctors did, they just couldn't find a cause for all my problems. I was very sick. I had lots of nausea and sickness, lots of pain, chest pain, migraines, but just general pains all over my body that I couldn't explain. and very, very heat intolerant, which is not great in hospitals because they have the temperature ridiculously higher in those places anyway. After quite a long period of time, they decided that they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. So the best option was to give me some beta blockers to control my heart rate and send me home over Christmas, and just try and get on with things. That didn't really go very well. I went home for Christmas and I was so ill that I couldn't move off of the sofa, couldn't do anything for myself. I was just struggling to breathe and struggling to get through every minute of every day. So Christmas and New Year's was pretty bad. And after Christmas, I went to see my GP, who, I'm not going to lie, was worse than useless. He was terrible. He told me that all of my problems were panic related, and that the best thing I could do would be to try and get on with things, to go back to work and try and get back into a daily routine. So the next day I got up to try and go to work. I was dropped off at work because I was too unwell to go by myself, and I passed out before I even reached the front steps of my workplace, and had to be driven back down to the doctor's surgery, where I just got no help whatsoever. They tried to put me on antidepressants, and I thought about this for a long time because I'm not a depressed person, and I knew deep down that it wasn't depression or anxiety related, but I almost let the doctor convince me into it because I was desperate for help. I didn't know what was going wrong with my body, and I just wanted to try anything that could help. So I started to take some antidepressants, which had a side effect of fast heart rate and tachycardia, which the doctor did not check. And I ended up back in hospital. So after another long period of time in hospital, they eventually Googled my symptoms. Good old Google came up with something called Postural Orthostatic Tachycardia syndrome, and that's basically where my sort of diagnosis started. I was referred to a bigger hospital in London where they specialise in similar conditions, and I was given what's called a tilt table test, where you're strapped to a table, connected to lots of monitors which track your breathing, your heart rate, and your blood pressure, and you're slowly lifted from a laying position to being moved and tilted up into a standing position. And what that shows is what your heart and blood pressure do as your body changes position. And instantly, within seconds, my heart rate shot up to over 200 beats per minute. My blood pressure flatlined and I fainted. And that was my diagnosis right there. And so I'll end this video now, and my next one I can sort of talk about post-diagnosis and medications and all the other issues that come with it. So if you have any messages or questions, if you have POTS and maybe want to get in touch, or you have related conditions, leave me a message. I also have a website dedicated to POTS, so please feel free to look on my page and get the link to that and have a look. Bye guys.